I'm sure Reed can tell when Sue is lying because he can see right through her. Here's a look at the brand new Diamond Select, Marvel Select Invisible Woman Collector's Action Figure with accessories. The undisputed heart of the Fantastic Four, Sue often finds herself mediating between her teammates' conflicting personalities. Her strength, spirit, and determination are perhaps the greatest among the FF, and she serves as a steady source of inspiration even in the dark times. Still, Sue's unique powers of invisibility allow her to slip away when the need to chart her own course arises from time to time. This 1/10 scale action figure of the Invisible Woman is based on an appearance in Marvel Comics. It features 16 points of articulation and multiple interchangeable accessories. Sue's looking so serious. Just before, of course, we get a closer look at the Invisible Woman and all the accessories that come included with her, I'd like to thank the folks over at Diamond Select that did provide this sample we could have a look at. Sue Storm, or the Invisible Woman if you prefer, is available right now in comic book stores or online. The figure is going to stand at 6.5 inches in height, or the figure's 16.5 centimeters tall. Now having Sue, I can now say I have the Fantastic Four complete, though they're from different years. We just recently, not that long ago in fact, looked at Mr. Fantastic. Color scheme from the costumes are pretty much exactly the same. They match the blues really nicely. We also looked at the Human Torch, and for at least right now, this is going to be my stand-in Johnny Storm until another one gets released. We also did get ourselves as well a Thing, and why I say from different times, this Thing's pretty old, but you know, he's still a good-looking Thing. I have no real problems with him. He could, yes, be updated, maybe with a slightly better bit of paint job, but he's still a nice-looking Thing to complete the rest of the FF. Serious Sue comes with a seriously cool amount of accessories. The first thing that we'll have a look at is the figure comes included with sort of what looks to be the starting point of her making a force shield around her. You only get the bottom half of it. It actually kind of looks more like a flower than anything else. It's been all effectively done here using translucent plastic. It sort of looks like, and it might just be the way that my studio lights are shining on it, like it's got a slight tint to it. Probably isn't going to be the case at all. It does also have a post that plugs in place. I've already taken the liberty. This actually comes in the packaging separately. There's a hole just on the back here, and it's in between the two pegs that are going to plug into her feet. If the only criticism I could really offer is that when you put the post in, I find like the pegs are really close to her feet. I mean, really close to where this will plug onto the back of the figure's body. If you look on the back of Sue's body, there's a hole right here that if she was shot, she'd be paralyzed for sure. But this basically, you just take the post and you plug it onto the back of her body, just like that. And really, I mean, even though, I said that the pegs are pretty close to the post, you really don't even need them. She stands fine. Really, with this attached onto her back, the figure isn't going to be going anywhere. I like that they included that. Now, obviously, it probably works a little bit better by using the translucent legs because it continues the trend of having her, again, making that force field. She also has a couple of other force effects that she comes included with as well. Probably will involve me first taking her off first. She comes first. Let me just put her down here. Get her in a stand. She comes with her force shield. Again, like looking at this, doesn't it look like it's got a slight tint color to it? But this attaches, instead of actually taking this and plugging onto the end of her hand, she actually already has a hand that's molded onto the back of it. So you're going to take this side of the figure's body, and we're going to remove this. And with the way that she is right now, you can see that they've already given her forearms that start clear translucent plastic, and they sort of transition their way into darker plastic. If you prefer, though, she comes also included some other forearms, too. But we're going to go ahead and just attach her hand. Let's just bring her arm up a little bit here, and that just plugs in place. It's the only hand, actually, that's the clear plastic that doesn't actually have a opaque plastic peg. What do I mean by that? I'm just going to put the figure down. If you look at actually all of the hands, one of the big no-nos of using clear plastic is if you also use clear plastic pegs, they're very susceptible to breaking. Diamond thought of that by also including opaque plastic, less likely to break. So even though like the hands themselves are all clear plastic, less likely the pegs are going to be able to break on you. Now, also speaking of hands, she also comes with a series of interchangeable hands, closed fists, first of all, to start those off. And then she also comes with a gripping hand for holding in an accessory. And then she also has another gestured hand, which just so happens to be the other side of the other hand that we just finished pulling off. Don't worry, she also comes included with regular black hands if you want to just have her gloves on instead. The other neat thing that she comes included with, I've already taken the liberty of swapping out one of the hands. I think actually when I got this out of the packaging, she had a closed fist. But I did already remove it in favor of a gripping hand. She does also come included with a little orb. Now, she does make these in the comics and in the cartoon. It's basically these invisible bubbles that she then throws at people as projectiles. Again, looking at this, it has a slight off coloring to it, almost like more of a rainbowish color scheme. It's probably just the way they've molded the plastic, but I like the effect that it results in. But if you wanted to, you can actually put this on her hand. I thought initially it was just a case you're going to remove the hand and just basically slide her up her forearm. But if you wanted to still have her hand inside of it, what you'll do is you'll take the two halves and detach them like that. And then you'll take this half that has the peg that's sticking up, and you basically just slide it down her hand, almost as if she's carrying it around like a tray. Then you'll take the other half, and you want to make sure, see how this has an open circle? It's going to also match that. It's going to fit around her forearm. Just plug it in place, and now at least she has herself the orb, and it still has the hand inside. So it doesn't lose the illusion of her actually being able to project this, rather than in just, simply just sliding over top of her forearm. Really like the look of that. And of course, then if you bring in the display stand we've already had a look at, it really completes the look of Sue Storm rather nicely. Let's just say this is too much for you. You just don't like the idea that she has so much translucency happening. Well, what you can also do too is that she has interchangeable parts. So we're going to go ahead and first of all remove this. We're going to put that off to the side. We're also going to as well carefully remove the shield and put that off to the side. And I might find myself actually putting the hand back in. The thing that she also comes included with is basically all these extra parts that are swapped out pieces. So if you prefer to have her with the Fantastic Four suit instead, you just pop the legs off, which I'll do in a second, and you replace them with the fully costumed legs too. You can also do the exact same thing with the hands as well. Not only do the hands replace, but also the forearms as well. You just take the entire pieces off. I'll do that in a second. These also already have hands to work and start things off first, but she also comes included basically all the same hands that were clear translucent before are now here molded in black plastic instead. So you got a couple of gestured hands. You've got yourself also a couple of grabbing hands, even though really she doesn't have any other accessories than the ones we just finished looking at, and she also has a closed fist too. So let's go ahead, pop the things off we just finished talking about. First, we're going to remove this. Now, I find, again, it's easier to keep the fist intact because it's just a little bit more you can hold on to. You kind of have to bend it a little bit and wiggle it off the provided post. I was actually kind of surprised to see how long the post was, but I guess they do that to ensure that the arm isn't going to be going anywhere. We'll do the exact same thing on this side as well. Now, for Mr. Fantastic, even though he really did come included with so many other things, like the twisted around, wrapped around body half, I don't end up ultimately displaying him with that. I feel it's so much extra stuff. Sue Storm, I might pick and choose really what I want to display her with. I'm having a harder time. You know what? I might just keep this one on. The only thing I would worry about the whole time I'm doing this, I'm also thinking this as well, is that it's so close to the hinge joint for the elbow that you really don't want to put too much pressure in case you break this off. The scene has already succeeded on one side. What I'll just end up doing is maybe I'll just do that half and half so you guys can see. We're going to plug this one in. So again, this is the costumed forearm. We're going to swivel that onto the provided peg. You want to make sure, again, it's all the way on there. If you're having, by the way, any hard time doing this, I would always certainly recommend heating this up in hot water. I've done it already, but with the time that I've spent already talking about Sue Storm, I think the plastic is ultimately cooled. But again, we're just going to wiggle it back in place. I don't have it all the way on there. And then you can also do the exact same thing with the legs. So the legs is just a case of wiggling these off. These are actually a lot easier than the forearms. The problem just with it is just that the forearms are so small. And, if you have, for example, I don't know why, maybe it's just the studio lights around me. I'm getting a little bit sweatier here, but just to kind of remove the forearms with all those things in mind, it's just a little harder to take those off. Let's go ahead and remove those legs. The legs are actually the easiest thing to take off. And then we're just going to take the swappable legs. You want to make sure, of course, the curve of the foot goes inward. We're just going to plug that back into the provided peg. And again, it might be a bit of a slot in between. I might have to fix that up a little bit later. And again, we're just going to plug that in place. Yeah, the only thing, I'm going to have to go back and probably heat this up just a little bit to ensure that the legs are completely on there. But yeah, for the most part, you get the idea of what Sue could look like if you want to swap the parts out instead. This whole time of talking and swapping, the one thing we haven't yet actually discussed is the head sculpt for Sue Storm. Now, here's where I talked earlier about her being so serious. The face sculpt, I feel, while being pretty, she has certainly more of a serious, stern look on her face. Now, when we looked at, say, Reed Richards, we're going to bring him back right now so you guys can see. I really liked Reed Richards' head sculpt, but again, so serious on both of their expressions. Sue looks generally just quite ticked off. I don't know if it's just something that Reed has done or said, but if she's looking like this, I think Reed should be best advised just to stay away from her completely. You can see, like, costume-wise, they're exactly the same, color-wise at least. I mean, obviously she has a slightly thinner frame. I do like the way that they've actually sculpted the F logo, the Fantastic Four logo, actually sculpted so it's raised above her chest. They didn't just print it in place. But, again, like, the head sculpt is good. I really like the way they've sculpted the hair. I feel like, if anything, she's a little too serious in the face. She could have worked a little bit better, I think, being a little bit more playful. Colors work really well on this figure. Again, like, you can see now, because I couldn't get this one actually off while the review was happening, I'll probably have to remove this a little bit later. You can see, again, like, it really is nice the way they've done this in a translucent clear plastic and how it then emerges in a more opaque black plastic. I don't know, I'm having a hard time getting that all out. The only thing about it, though, is by making this clear plastic, you can obviously see the post from the hand still lodged in there. I mean, there's really no workaround to that. I mean, I'd much rather complain about the fact that this post is visible than complain about the peg actually breaking because they're using clear plastic. So it's just, unfortunately, one of the sacrifices that have to be made in order to work the hands and not have them break in the process. But overall, like, again, like, other than just not getting the legs completely on there, which, again, I'm going to have to fix just before we jump over to the final looks, all in all, it's a good looking suit. I feel like, if anything, her face is just a little too serious. It should have been a little bit more, like I said, playful. But other than that, like the look of Sue. Now, for her articulation, her head's going to be a little harder to rotate just because, again, she's got so much sculpting of her hair here. The head can look up only by that high, and I know it for a second may have looked like you missed something. You really didn't miss anything. The head can't look any further up than this. It can look down only by that much. You missed it? Okay. That's as far up as it can go. That's as far down as it can go. I mean, she really has very limited in the way of articulation. The shoulders come out easily. They work a lot easier than the neck. You can bring those arms out 90 degrees. You can take those arms and rotate them all the way around. She has a swivel at the bicep. She has a single hinge in the elbow, and the hands do rotate back and forth. I guess because of the way these also peg in place, you could rotate these back and forth. But again, I'm just going to have to make sure I get that all the way on there. Upper torso is on a ball joint. Sue Storm also has a swivel in her waist. Legs split out there on ball joints. Now, because these also peg in place, they would be a swivel cut there. They'd be able to rotate these back and forth. Single leg only has a hinge, or the leg only is with a single hinge in the knee. Rotates back and forth. She has no articulation, surprisingly, here in the boot. I thought this could be something that would be able to rotate, but she has at least a hinge joint where you can move the ankle back and forth, and an ankle rocker as well. I love Sue in the sense that, color scheme wise, I mean, she matches perfectly to Reed Richards that we've already had a look at. Yes, I still going to have to go back and fix those thighs. I'll be fixing them shortly before we jump to final looks. But again, just like moving everybody over and just bring in the remaining Fantastic Four. I think Johnny Storm's off to doing other things. Let's not knock over thing in the process. The thing I really like about Sue Storm, as I'm trying to pick up the paces here, is I like the sculpting on the body. I like the accessories that come include with her as well. The only thing I'm just not 100% sold on is the sculpting of her face. I think that could have been something that could have been worked on a little bit more. But the color scheme works really well. And even though really Thing is an older Marvel Select figure, I think the blues match somewhat close, pretty close indeed. I mean, other than just the fact that Thing has some additional shadowing there around his thighs. It's a nice looking Sue, nice looking accessories. I just think the face maybe needs a little bit of extra work. Now, picking up the pieces for the Invisible Woman, boy, I was dropping everything near the end of that review. I've got her actually more so in her Fantastic Four suit and did away with most of all the translucent plastic, except for the force field shield that she has on the end of her hand. I'm going to display it like this for right now, but what I do like that Diamond did with her is that they included as many things that, for me to go back and change the things, other than maybe just heating it up a little bit with a hairdryer, I can easily swap out the parts accordingly. Now, I did have a little bit of a harder time changing out one of the forearms. One of the big things about it is just that the forearms are so skinny. Having the pegs also so close to the hinge joint for the elbows means that you really don't have a lot to hold on to when you're trying to wiggle it off. I had heated it up prior to hitting record, but of course with all the time I spend talking to you guys in these videos, the plastic had cooled. Heating it up again not only allowed me to get the forearm off and swapping it out, but it also fixed the problem of that gap space on her thigh. So if you are picking this figure up or already have this figure and you've had some problems, is where I really recommend. Don't struggle, don't sweat it, don't just worry about it. Just take a hairdryer, and usually that's more than enough to heat the plastic up, and then you can easily pop and change the things out that you need to have this displayed on your shelf. Sue Storm's a nice looking figure, and it's going to go really well with the Reed Richards we've already had a look at. Again, I have a stand-in Thing, and I have a stand-in Human Torch. Those ideally aren't probably going to be the most perfect renditions of those characters, and I probably could even find better ones out there on the market, but for at least right now, that's my stand-in Fantastic Four collection. I'm glad to finally have a Fantastic Four Invisible Woman to be displayed along with it. She isn't perfect. I mean, I do like the included accessories that they packed along with her. Ideally, I think I would have preferred a prettier looking head sculpt, one that isn't as stern as what Diamond decided to give her instead. But other than that, I think she's a nice looking Sue Storm, and I think, again, she's going to go really nicely with my makeshift ragtag Fantastic Four that I currently have right now. Had you guys had the chance to pick up Sue Storm yet? Let me know down below in the comments section. And if you have a Fantastic Four setup, maybe give me some ideas. I feel, a pretty good looking Reed Richards, courtesy of the folks over at Diamond. I have, again, a pretty decent looking Sue Storm. But what should I use for a Fantastic Four Human Torch and Thing? Let me know some ideas down below in the comments section. Big thank you once again to the folks over at Diamond Select that did provide this sample of the Marvel Select Fantastic Four Invisible Woman that we could have a look at in this review. If you guys did enjoy this video, I want to throw it a like. If you guys are loving the content you guys are seeing and you'd like to stick around for more, we may be wrapping up things right now for at least the Fantastic Four, but there will be more Marvel Select reviews coming your way, so making sure you're coming back here on a regular basis. As always, guys, thanks for watching. See you guys next time.